Isaac married Rebekah. Rebekah was barren. Isaac prayed for his wife Rebekah. She conceived. There were twins in her womb. They jostled each other. Rebekah asked herself, "What is happening to me?" She went to inquire of the Lord. The Lord told her, "There are two nations in your womb. One will be stronger than the other. The older will serve the younger." When the twins were born, the older was Esau. He became Edom. The younger was Jacob. He became Israel. And Edom did serve Israel. This is the judgment of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Later, when Isaac was old, his eyes were dim. He could not see. He summoned his older son Esau to give Esau the blessing. This would be the blessing that Isaac inherited from his father, Abraham. It could go to only one of his sons. He decided to give it to his older son, Esau. He loved his older son, Esau, because Esau was a hunter and Isaac liked to eat of Esau's game. Isaac summoned Esau. "Go hunt for me some game and prepare some tasty food as I like it. Bring it to me so that I may bless you, my son." Esau went out into the field to hunt for game. Rebekah had overheard what Isaac said to her older son Esau. Since Rebekah loved Jacob, she wanted Jacob to have the blessing. Jacob was a quiet man. He lived amongst the tents. That means he was a homebody. Mama's boy. "Go prepare a young goat, that I may prepare some tasty food, such as your father enjoys. You take that food to your father so that he may eat it and bless you." Jacob said, "What if my father touches me? If he realizes that it's me, I will seem to be mocking my father, and I will bring a curse on myself rather than a blessing." Rebekah said, "Let the curse fall upon me, my son. Do as I have said." So Jacob went and slaughtered a goat. His mother prepared tasty food such as Isaac enjoyed. They took the goat skins and put it on Jacob's arms. They did that in case Isaac touched Jacob. You see, Esau was a hairy man, and Jacob was a man of smooth skin. Rebekah also took some of Esau's garments and put them on her son Jacob. She put the food in his hand. Jacob went into his father and said, "My father." And Isaac said, "Who is it?" And Jacob lied to his father and said, "It is your son Esau. I have prepared tasty food for you so that you may bless me." Isaac said, "How did you find the food so quickly?" Jacob lied again and said, "The Lord your God blessed me, and I was able to find game quickly." Now, not only has Jacob lied, he's involved God in his lies. So Isaac ate the food, told his son to come close to him, and when he caught the smell of Esau's garments on his son Jacob, Isaac rejoiced and gave Jacob the blessing. The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the smell is the smell of Esau, my son, which is the smell of the fields. And he gave Jacob the blessing. Jacob obtained the blessing by treachery. Jacob obtained the blessing by false pretenses. Jacob obtained the blessing by lying. And did God overturn the blessing? Did God intervene and say, "Oh no, this is unjust. The blessing should the judgment of the Lord. Thanks be to God. The apostle confirms such judgments. The apostle, speaking under the inspiration of the Spirit, says on behalf of God, Jacob I loved, Esau I hated. God delivered this judgment before either one of them was born, before either one had done anything good or bad, so that the purposes of God might stand by grace and not by works. I love Jacob. I hate Esau. This is the judgment of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Vacation Bible School kids, can you agree that our God is surprising? Still working on that. Well, let's go back to Jacob's grandfather, Abraham. Why did God pick Abraham? Why not somebody else? When God created Adam and Eve fell into sin. God punished them by driving them from the Garden of Eden, but he gave them clothes to wear. When Cain killed Abel, God punished Cain by driving Cain from his presence to be a wanderer on the earth. But God put a mark on Cain so that no one would kill him. When the form of man's thoughts was only evil from his youth, God sent a flood to destroy every living thing, everything that had the breath of life, and it died. But God saved Noah and his family, and he put his bow in the clouds and promised never again would he bring such a flood upon the earth to destroy all living things. Then man built a tower up to heaven. Let us make a name for ourselves, man said, lest we be scattered over the face of all the earth. The Lord came down and saw the tower. If this is what they are capable of, all speaking the same language, then nothing they determine to do will be impossible for them. Let us confuse their languages. And so the Lord scattered them over all the face of the earth. And where is the sign of mercy after battle? The sign of mercy after battle is God appeared to Abraham and said, leave your father's home and your father's country and go to a land that I will show you. I will make your name great. I will give you numerous descendants. Everyone who blesses you will be blessed. Everyone who curses you will be cursed. Why did God pick Abraham? He's the sign of God's mercy to all of humanity. Why did God pick Abraham? Abraham was in Haran worshiping his idols when God appeared to him. Why not pick somebody else from Ur of the Chaldees who's bowing down to his idols and make his name great? Why not pick Abraham's father Terah or one of his brothers Nahor or Haran? Why Abraham? And the Bible does not say. God picked Abraham and said, everyone who blesses you will be blessed, everyone who curses you will be cursed. And at least fallen and scattered humanity has a way of obtaining the blessings of God. All we need to do is bless Abraham. This is the judgment of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Abraham did this twice. Once with Pharaoh and once with Abimelech. Pharaoh is king of Egypt, Abimelech is king of the Philistines. He did it twice. With both of these kings, when he entered their country, he told them that his wife was his sister. Thinking that Sarah was Abraham's sister, both of these kings took Sarah into their own harems to be their wives. God punished both kings by closing the wombs of their household so that no one was bearing children. God even appeared to Abimelech in a dream and said, you're as good as dead because the woman that you have taken is a man's wife. Abimelech protests. Didn't he say she was his sister? In innocence have I done this. Wouldn't that have been the protest of Pharaoh? Who is innocent and who is guilty here? God punishing? He's punishing these men who took Sarah into their harems innocently, thinking that she was Abraham's sister. Who does God bless? God blesses Abraham because Pharaoh and Abimelech gave Abraham male and female slaves and livestock and silver and gold to declare their innocence that they did not touch his wife. Does this seem right to any of you? Does this seem fair to any of you? Would not you have protested the same as Abimelech did? In innocence I have done this. And why does God do it? Because God is protecting the promise he made to Abraham that Abraham would have descendants through Sarah. And he wants that promise kept, and he doesn't want anybody interfering with it. This is the judgment of the Lord. Thanks be to God. The Vacation Bible School children studied about Joseph this week. Joseph. God sends Joseph dreams that his brothers are going to bow down to him. Joseph tells his brothers the dreams. The brothers hate it. They sell him into slavery. He winds up a slave in Egypt. He is falsely accused in Egypt. They put him in prison. While he's in prison, he meets two of Pharaoh's officials. Pharaoh's officials have dreams. Joseph correctly interprets them. Eventually, one of those officials goes back to Pharaoh's court, and when Pharaoh has his dreams, tells Pharaoh, hey, there's this guy in prison who can interpret dreams. Pharaoh yanks Joseph out of the prison, asks for the interpretation of his dreams. Joseph says there's going to be 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. God has determined it. Save up a bunch of food during the 7 years of plenty, and you'll have plenty of food during the 7 years of famine. Pharaoh says, that's a great idea. I'll make you second in command of all of Egypt. There's Vacation Bible School in 2 minutes. But it seems to me that God is solving a problem that he himself created, isn't he? He puts Joseph in the right place so that Egypt will have enough food stored up for the 7 years of famine. If God wanted to solve that problem, why not just skip the 7 years of famine to begin with? Why not just not send them? It seems to be the whole point is to get Joseph into a position of power in Egypt. The whole point seems to be to exalt Joseph. The whole point seems to be to make Joseph the method by which a blessing will come to all of the nations of the world, which is exactly what he promised Abraham, Joseph's great-grandfather. This is the judgment of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Then another Pharaoh arose in Egypt, one who did not know Joseph. This Pharaoh was dismayed at how many descendants Israel had. He enslaved God's people. He forced them into hard labor. God wanted to save his people from slavery in Egypt, and so he sent Moses. He told Moses before Moses ever stood in front of Pharaoh, I am going to harden Pharaoh's heart. He's not going to let the people go. I'm going to harden Pharaoh's heart so that it will take a mighty hand to compel him to let the people go. Why? Why is God hardening Pharaoh's heart? If God truly wants to save his people, why doesn't he soften Pharaoh's heart? If God truly wants to rescue his people, why doesn't he soften Pharaoh's heart so that the minute that Moses throws down his rod and it changes into a serpent, Pharaoh goes, woo, I'll let the people go. Why go through the rigmarole of sending plagues against Pharaoh to compel him to let God's people go? Why go through the rigmarole of changing the Nile into blood? Why go through the rigmarole of a plague of frogs, a plague of flies, a plague of boils, a plague of pestilence, a plague of gnats, a plague of darkness, a plague of, I'm not getting these in the right order, a plague of locusts and hail, and then finally the death of the firstborn? Why go through all of that if the point is to save his people? Do you know what God says in answer to this question? He does give the answer. God says to Pharaoh, I have raised you up for this very purpose, that I might display my glory in you. He hardens Pharaoh's heart precisely for the purpose of multiplying his miracles in Egypt, so that men may know that he is the Lord. This is the judgment of the Lord, thanks be to God. Our God is surprising. So the question arises, I'm sure you've thought about it, I certainly have. What's to stop God from hardening my heart? If he hardened Pharaoh's heart, what's to stop him from hardening mine? If God wanted to display his glory in my life, he could easily harden my heart straight into unbelief and straight into damnation. What's to stop him? Can I stop him? Can you? Would you accuse God of being unjust? For who can resist his will? Beware, O man, do not talk back to God. Can the pot say to the potter, why'd you make me this way? Does not the potter have the right from the same lump of clay to make some vessels for noble use and some for dishonorable use? Don't even you Americans use ceramics for your coffee cup and also for your toilet? And do you not have the right to use ceramics for one thing and the other, according to your will? So who are you, O man, to talk back to God? This is the judgment of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I want to tell you one more judgment of God. I want you to pay attention to this one. Well, you should pay attention to all of them. There's this guy who grew up in Nazareth. He grew up in the household of Joseph. He was born to Mary. He comes from Nazareth to a man named John the Baptist. This young man's name is Jesus. He comes to John the Baptist to be baptized. John the Baptist baptizes him, and God opens up the heavens to declare his judgments. This is my beloved Son. With him I am well pleased. This is the judgment of the Lord. Thanks be to God. And when the disciples finally figured out that he was indeed the Son of God, through Peter they confessed it. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And as soon as Peter figured it out, Jesus told him, look, someone's going to betray me into the hands of wicked people. Those wicked people will kill me, and on the third day I will rise. This is the judgment of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Do you remember what Peter said? Do you remember what Peter said? This shall never happen to you, Lord. Never. Peter was surprised. Our God is surprising. This shall never happen to you. You shall never die. Peter gets rebuked. Jesus says to Peter, you get behind me, Satan. You're thinking in the ways of man. You are not thinking in the ways of God. It is the judgment of the Lord that Jesus should die for you. It is the judgment of the Lord that Judas should betray him. It is the judgment of the Lord that he should stand trial for things that he did not do. It is the judgment of the Lord that they should nail him to a cross. And what's he doing on that cross? He's dying for you. The righteous dies for the unrighteous to bring you to God. Would you give your life for somebody? If you gave your life for somebody, you'd probably give your life for your husband or your wife or your children or your parents. But would you give your life for somebody who's not family? Well, maybe I would, but they had better be a pretty good person before I give my life for them. And so God demonstrates his own love for us in this, in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. While we were yet God's enemies, Christ died for us. Do you know how God describes the day of judgment? It's a day of darkness and not light. It is a day when God shakes the earth. When Jesus dies, it is a day of darkness, and God shook the earth. This is his judgment. The punishment for sinful humanity has fallen upon the Son of God. It has not fallen upon those who deserve it. And because it has fallen upon the Son of God and not upon those who deserve it, those who deserve God's wrath are saved. Those who deserve his wrath are forgiven. I will have compassion upon whom I have compassion. I will have mercy upon whom I have mercy. No one can compel God to do these things. He will render those things in his judgments. So Jesus cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? And he dies. This is the judgment of the Lord. Thanks be to God. By now, we've read through the Old Testament and the New Testament. By now, we should know rock solid our God is surprising. Very good. I like that. And so on the third day, Jesus rises from the dead. On the third day, he rises from the dead. Dead people do not rise. He raises the dead. He raises Jesus from the dead in order to proclaim to you and to me that his crucifixion was not for his sin. He was right.